Fire Chief Rob Campbell is also here with us today. Good afternoon, and thank you for coming in today. As the Bath Township Police Department continues our investigation into the tragic incident that occurred over the weekend, I want to provide an update on the shooting that took place at a party on November 2nd, 2025 on Top of the Hill Drive in Bath Township. First, some encouraging news. 2 of the 9 victims have been treated and released from a local hospital as of yesterday. Both sustained gunshot wounds. At this time, we do not have an update on the conditions of the remaining victims. Because several of those involved are juveniles, the amount of information we can share publicly is limited. Our thoughts remain with all the victims and their families as they continue their recovery. Investigators are working diligently on this complex case, and we're grateful for the assistance of multiple law enforcement partners, including the Copley Township Police Department, the City of Fairlawn Police Department, the Village of Richfield Police Department, the Akron Police Department, the Summit County Sheriff's Office, the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation, BCI, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, ATF. These agencies are assisting us in processing a large volume of evidence, including witness interviews, video surveillance, and social media content. Investigators continue to actively follow leads, review video footage, and conduct interviews. I want to emphasize that these investigators are diligently working around the clock to find those responsible for this incident. At this stage of the investigation, we're asking for the public's help. We're confident there are individuals with pertinent information about the party and the people responsible for the shooting. We also believe that there are individuals at the party who have video recordings of the incident. Parents, please talk to your kids. The video on their phone might be the key piece of evidence we need. Anyone with information that could aid this investigation, no matter how minor it may seem, is urged to contact the Bath Police Department Detective Bureau at 330-666-3736. Tips can also be submitted to the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation at 1-855-BCI-OHIO. That's also 1-855-224-6446. They can also email those tips to intel, I-N-T-E-L, at ohioattorneygeneral.gov. Again, that's intel at ohioattorneygeneral.gov. We remain fully committed to identifying and holding accountable those responsible for the senseless act of violence. Our department will continue to provide updates as new information becomes available. Thank you.
Do you have any idea how many suspects we're talking here?
At this point, we don't know. What we do know is that there were quite a few shell casings that were found at the scene, including several calibers. So we're still developing those leads, but we don't have an exact number of shooters.
Can you determine right now, were they all handguns? Were there any assault rifles used?
The Ohio BCI has processed all of those shell casings. We'll get a full review of the calibers once we know more, but we don't have that information available as of yet.
You mentioned 2 of 9 released from the hospital. Those 2 had gunshot wounds. Did the 7 still in the hospital, are they all suffering from gunshot wounds? Are there other injuries at play?
Well, we had initially learned that, and again, the information is limited on what we can share publicly, but there were 1 or more of the injuries that were not related to gunshot wounds, but the 7 remain hospitalized.
Chief, there was the nonprofit offering the reward up to $5,000. Is Summit County Crime Stoppers doubling down on that? So is it up to $10,000?
So we're working with BCI to reach out to Crime Stoppers, but I did learn this morning of the nonprofit that is offering a $5,000 reward. So we'll be working with them. So at this point in time, I can't commit to Crime Stoppers doubling that as of yet.
Chief, do you have a sense of how many individuals were attending this gathering?
That's a good question. Unfortunately, so we're reviewing the video surveillance. We know there were many, many kids there. Unfortunately, when our officers first arrived on scene, many had scattered and fled the area before our officers got there. One of the primary focuses of the officers who responded was to provide life-saving aid. They found many of the gunshot wound victims outside, and really their priority was to render aid to them first. And I'm very, very, very proud of the work that they did that night.
So with as many people as were there, I mean, it seems having a party of that kind is out of character for that neighborhood. Had there been any calls prior to that to your department, any complaints of noise or just the volume of people in that neighborhood?
We've had no other complaints at that particular residence or in that neighborhood. That's usually a very quiet neighborhood.
And I know you've reached out to the homeowner who does not live in Ohio. Is there anything you could share from the conversation with her?
I did speak with the property owner the morning of the incident. She was unaware what was happening with this particular party. Obviously, she's very concerned about the implications of what happened here. She's cooperating fully with our investigation, but she indicated that she was unaware of the fact that this particular person who had rented for the short-term rental was intending to have a party at the residence.
On the advertisement of that online for this gathering, on one of the advertisements, it describes a large security presence on scene. What can you tell us about that? And is it possible that any of the shots that were fired may have come from people who were there?
So we can't really confirm or deny that. What I can say is that the Bath Township Police Department was never contacted to provide security assistance at this party. So if the organizer made arrangements for private security, that would have been something beyond our knowledge. But we're anything is possible as far as who originated those shots. But again, we were unaware of any private security or law enforcement security working there.
The last question for me, but in another of these advertisements, or perhaps shared with us, is that half of the proceeds from this gathering were expected to go to the funeral of, I believe, a gunshot victim just last week in Akron. Are you aware of that? And is there any reason to believe that this incident might be related to a separate incident?
I did learn of a potential connection, but there's been a lot of social media discussion on many, many theories, so we're kind of taking them all in and trying to evaluate their authenticity.
Kind of piggybacking off of that, were you able to determine yet, were the people who were shooting, were they invited to this party, or was this something that they were targeted and they arrived after it had started, or was it an argument maybe that started amongst the people that were there?
Yeah, again, that's pure speculation at this point. We don't have the information necessary to come to any conclusion on that as of yet.
And are you able to give some context around the rules for Airbnbs in the Bath Township area?
So under our township zoning resolution, Airbnbs or short-term rentals are prohibited. Since we're a township, we don't have home rule authority that provides us the ability to enforce through any type of criminal sanction or anything else. Typically, if we get alerted to an Airbnb short-term rental within the township that's inconsistent with our residential zoning code, the zoning department sends a compliance letter out to the offending party. We were not made aware that this was an Airbnb. We did have a similar incident in July of 2017, another Airbnb party where roughly 200 or 300 people showed up. One individual did sustain a leg wound from a gunshot in that incident. So again, there are rules in our township zoning resolution, but there are no criminal penalties associated with them.
I guess maybe this is a question for Airbnb, but if it's prohibited within the township, why was the owner allowed to, when you have to put in your address, obviously, when you're listing the property, why did Airbnb, have you been able to communicate with them why they allowed this to happen in an area where it's prohibited?
Airbnb has reached out to me via email, and we're going to schedule a meeting to discuss that very issue.
How would you assess the danger level of these suspects still being out there?
Well, for our immediate area, I don't think there's a threat to our community. We believe that they left the area where they are at this point. We are actively looking at it. Again, the police department's priority is for protecting and safeguarding the residents and businesses in this community, and we're going to do everything possible that we can to ensure that. And I know we're on kind of heightened alert after this very tragic incident, but I want to assure our residents that we are working diligently on finding those responsible, and we will continue the great work that we've done over the years to protecting this community.
Chief, does the organizer of the party, have you talked to them? Do they face potential charges for having a large gathering in your township?
So our investigators and BCI are working to track down that lead that was shared to us from the property owner.
You mentioned surveillance footage. What cameras are you relying on? Cameras inside that home, street surveillance?
There's really a variety of cameras, ring cameras from throughout the neighborhood, flock cameras, the license plate readers. So there's a volume of information and evidence, but it also includes cell phone videos. We did recover some of that as part of the evidence, and investigators are looking through that to see if anyone may have captured images relevant to the case.
Those phone videos, did people submit those? Were those people cooperating, or are those things that you've seen online?
So some of it is social media posts. Others were phones that we discovered at the scene and secured as part of the evidentiary process. So there's just a volume of information right now that we're going through.
Are you able to confirm what school the juvenile victims go to or attend?
Yeah, at this point, we don't know, where those victims were from. Again, much of that is because they're juveniles and the information is limited.
Chief, is there a danger to the public here? One, possibly warrant shooters still out?
Well, obviously, they are still at large. One or more shooters are still at large. Again, I can only speak to my community here in Bath Township, and we will, we've heightened our patrol efforts, and we will continue doing the work that we do to protect this community. So those individuals are extremely dangerous, and my hope is that we can, follow up with some leads, that parents will check their kids and encourage them to share information to us that will be helpful to this case.
And Chief, I know a few of the people who have been to that party have been reluctant to talk publicly about what they witnessed because they are concerned that these shooters are still out there. When I say publicly, I mean to us. I suppose you would encourage them, however, to talk with you.
Absolutely. I mean, that's really the message here today, that we are going to do everything we possibly can to find those responsible. And if you have any information, please share it with us. It is going to be so helpful, particularly for those 9 victims who sustained injuries.
For the homeowner, were they just visiting out of town, or do they live in the home when it's not rented out?
It's my understanding they live out of state.
9 people shot in a small community like this one. I'm sure that you've probably had a lot of calls to your office with people just concerned. What would you say to maybe ease some minds here for the Bath Township folks?
Well, I think you can look historically at this community. I mean, we are a very small bedroom community of 10,000 residents. We have a significant police presence, and our first responders do a great job in this community. This particular incident certainly does not mark what Bath Township represents. Clearly an anomaly in our criminal history. So again, my assurance to this community is that we will do everything possible to find those responsible for this crime, but also to protect our residents and our business owners.
Chief, I know many of these people there who were there, not from Bath Township, just what I've seen is people intending to go from as far away as Columbus, as far away as the Youngstown area. Are you familiar with where all of these people, or some of them may be from? It's well outside of Bath Township, is that right?
So again, I mean, there were so many people who arrived at this party, and it's hard to say whether it was locals, whether it was those out of the area. Again, I've seen some of the theories on social media that have come forward, but we're trying to process all the hard evidence that we have and trying to determine where they were from, if there's any correlation to any other violence in communities outside of our Northeast Ohio region. So we just don't know at this point.
Were any firearms recovered on scene?
I'm sorry?
Were any firearms recovered on scene?
So there were 60-some pieces of evidence that were collected, but at this point, I don't have information specifically about what everything was. I know there were quite a few shell casings, but that's about the extent of it.
What did the neighbors say about that home? Since the homeowners live out of state, what did the neighbors say about it being vacant, occupied, being rented through Airbnb? Have they said anything?
Yes, so we have had one owner who expressed interest about the condition of the property. Recently, they said there was someone kind of walking around, kind of lost in the area, and they believe it was connected to that particular home, but we couldn't verify that. We were unable to find that person. But, you know, I guess the other message that I would convey is that if in a neighborhood you see a home that's deteriorating in its condition, it's been listed for a long time for sale. Perhaps it's something that you can keep a better eye on. Alert the police if you find suspicious activity of the residents. But aside from the one individual who called about just kind of someone suspicious in the area walking around who were not able to confirm, that's really about the only complaint we've had of the residents.
Were the neighbors aware of the party before the shots were fired?
Not that I'm aware, no.
When did Bath Police become aware of the social media post? Was it advertising this party, obviously this party that's not supposed to happen in Bath Township? Was it not until after the shooting, or had police heard about this before?
After the shooting, yeah.
It was a birthday party, Halloween party?
The post that I saw that was connected with it was a birthday party, a mansion birthday party.
Are you able to share that post with us?
Yes, and I think it's been available publicly to the media, but I can share that with you separately.
Speaking of evidence, there was a white Pontiac Grand Prix that was towed out of there. Can you elaborate on why?
So there was a vehicle parked in front of the driveway. As I understand it, a parent of one of the children who was at the party came to pick their daughter up. They wanted to question the daughter further, and for that reason, the vehicle was sustained at the property and then ultimately removed.
Are you all working with the Bath Township schools to find out any information or provide counseling or anything?
We've been in direct contact with the superintendent of the Revere schools, as well as contacts with the school resource officers at Copley. So they're actively aware of this investigation, and we advise them that if they have any information about students who talk about this party and potentially their presence at it, that to please share that with us.
I know the information you can share as far as injuries is limited, but are any of those injuries considered life-threatening?
At this point, we don't know yet. So we've not had any fatalities reported to us.
Are the victims, you indicated you didn't know where they were from, the victims, but are they not cooperating? I mean, I think you at least know where they were from if they're in the hospital. They're not going anywhere, right? I mean,
Yeah, so the other part of this is that we want to be mindful of the medical treatment being provided to those individuals. So we certainly don't want to interfere with any medical care that's being given to the victims, and for that reason, witness interviews have been relatively limited, and so our investigators are just trying to determine when it's best to meet with them to gather more information.
What hospitals were the victims transferred to?
At this point, the only reported issue that we can say is at area local hospitals. So we do know that 2 of the victims were transported to our AGMC West Campus on Crystal Lake Road, but they were ultimately transferred to other hospitals. So there is no one currently that was part of that shooting, a victim in our local hospital.
So you indicated this is the second shooting at an Airbnb in your community. Right? One was kind of far back, but so looking forward, are you going to shop for Airbnbs, have a detective periodically check the website? What do you do going forward?
Yeah, and so that's certainly a discussion that we have. Again, township authority is fairly limited on our enforcement ability, but we are going to be engaging with the county executive's office. County ordinances can be enforced within our township, and so we're going to be talking to them. We're also going to be reaching out to Airbnb and see if they could potentially mark Bath Township as an exclusionary area for short-term rentals.
There was a statement from the problem or a larger issue?
Oh, certainly, and I have been in contact with Mayor Malik. We've talked about this incident as well as violence within the city of Akron, so we're very mindful of that, yes.
What do you think the problem is, or how they're getting access to these rooms?
That's a broader question far beyond this press conference, but it's certainly an issue that we need to look at.
I mean, if the Akron mayor's involved, it does sound like perhaps there's some connection there, or is this just solid area in between cities and suburbs?
Yeah, so Mayor Malik contacted me early morning on November 2nd, offering whatever assistance available through the Akron Police Department and Akron Fire. I did also speak with Chief Harding, Chief Leon Henderson, and the fire department. They were all very supportive and sent officers to us that morning. So Mayor Malik just wanted to reinforce that partnership with us.
Okay, so his statement, his involvement's not because of a connection that you guys are willing to state, it's just because
No.
they're the largest nearby city and they
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Do you have any questions for Chief Campbell or?
How many of the, emergency personnel?
It just goes without saying, I would think that this violates fire code as well. I mean, having, I don't know what the occupancy of a structure like that is, but,
So, certainly for a residential property like that, obviously this was an extremely large crowd for that. In terms of fire code enforcement, there is nothing in the state fire code that gives us the ability to enforce regulations on residential properties. And even though this was like a short-term rental, it still falls under residential property, so we kind of get caught hamstrung a little bit with our ability to do anything about this. And again, you have to know about it when it's happening too to try and be able to do anything. But unfortunately, in the residential setting, we're very limited in what we can do.
When you were inside, what was the condition of the house? I mean, is it habitable? Is it?
So our EMS personnel never made entry into the home. Our EMS personnel made it as far as the intersection of Yellow Creek Road and Top of Hill Drive, and pretty much set up there as the casualty collection point, and the law enforcement officers that were working the scene brought the victims to that collection point that were transported. So.
I saw in some places designated as a mass casualty event. When was the last time that your EMS personnel had to deal with something of this scale?
We have not had to deal with that very often, and actually this was the first activation of the most recent rewrite of the county mass casualty plan, which I am happy to report worked very well. The coordination between the personnel at the scene, hospital personnel, was all very well handled and coordinated. It was very seamless and very rapid to get the injured parties that were treated by EMS out of the scene into definitive care.
When did that mass casualty plan come active? When was it active?
It's just been activated within like the last 12 months. The mass casualty plan has always been here, but there was just a major rewrite, a little bit of change in the way the operations were conducted. So this was really the first big test of that plan, and those changes were definitely good. So,
This is still considered a mass casualty event?
what's that?
This is still considered a mass casualty event?
As we stand here today, this was more of a limited victim type of event. At the time that night when a mass casualty was declared, that was the right call to make, because at that point, people were scattering in all directions. No one really knew how many victims were going to be present. So, we actually, even though for EMS transport purposes, our initial responding units from Bath and our immediate neighboring communities was adequate to handle the event, we actually had medical units from several other communities stage here as well, because we didn't know how many additional victims might present.
How do you all define a mass casualty event and when to execute?
So mass casualty event is anything that exceeds the capabilities of the local resources. We are fortunate here in that while our individual department in Bath is small, as are most of the communities that surround Akron, we have very close established working relationships with our neighbors. We respond automatically with each other on a lot of critical incidents, so that actually improves our capabilities over what we would have if we had to completely stand on our own. And I'm very thankful to our mutual aid partners for their assistance that night. Again, everyone came together quickly, worked as one unified team. There was no difficulty in communicating with one another, in understanding what each other wanted. Those working relationships made this event go much smoother than it could have.
Scouring through social media, I've noticed there's been some videos, pictures that have not been associated necessarily with this incident, but the words tagged to this incident. How do you advise the public to separate what's real and what's fake?
In this day and age, especially with social media, that is incredibly challenging. And all I could say is, with everything you look at, don't take any of it at face value. You really need to do your homework and try and find the entire story before you come to any conclusions, because a lot of the stuff that's out there just isn't accurate.
Are you all getting some of the same things we're looking at, the fake, or maybe the wrong dated information? Are you
Yeah,
seeing-
I can't speak for the police departments, but I can tell you that what I've seen from social media over the last 24 hours, there is a lot of people that speak with a lot of authority that are absolutely incorrect. But that's just the nature of social media.
I guess I had a question for the police chief. What was your impression of the inside of the house after everything? I mean, was there a lot of disarray, a lot of alcohol? Was it broken furniture, broken windows? I mean, what was it like inside the home?
Yeah, so we tried to limit our really inspection of the home to ensure that no evidence was compromised. So the initial entry did indicate that there was a presence of alcohol in there. But beyond that, no one really discussed the issue of whether it was habitable or not. There was no one that spoke to the issue that was uninhabitable. But again, we tried to limit our review of it. We wanted to make sure on initial entry that there were no additional threats within the house. And then beyond that, we withdrew, secured the exterior of the residence, and then let BCI do their processing.
Is it an active crime scene still? Or-
So BCI is still, there was a search warrant that was executed on the home. We are still watching over the house to ensure that BCI does not need to return. They did complete most of their review yesterday, but they may have to come back. So it is still an active crime scene.
What was the search warrant for?
The search warrant was for the home, and it was executed on that resident.
What were you looking for?
So because of the contractual arrangement between the property owner and Airbnb, it was deemed that there could be no consent from the actual property owner because of that potential relationship and problem. So it was decided that we would obtain a search warrant for the property to address that issue.
When will you speak next with BCI, and when are you expecting an update from them?
So they are actively working with us right now as we speak. So as information becomes available, we'll certainly keep everyone apprised of it. Again, this is a very fluid situation, a very complex investigation, and we hope to share some other news soon, but I can't say definitively when that will happen.
Chief, not to muddy the waters any more than they already are, but the flyer for this event, it did advertise free liquor, and there were a number of juveniles there. At the very least, could the organizers be responsible for providing liquor to juveniles?
Oh, certainly, and that's certainly something that we're going to look at. I mean, our priority right now is to find those responsible for the shooting. But secondarily, we're certainly going to be reviewing this with a police legal advisor on the person who organized this event for furnishing alcohol to minors, and there may be other issues that come associated with it.
Did you all find I know the Airbnb talked about suspending the account of the person who booked the party. Did you all speak with them? Or booked the venue? Did you all speak with them?
So investigators do have that information, and they are reaching out to that person to try to determine whether she was affiliated or whether they were affiliated with the party, or whether they were a third party that just arranged the Airbnb rental. So again, I'm going to leave it up to the investigators on where they are with that.
Can you confirm how long the rental
I believe it was 1 day.
And when it was made?
That I don't know offhand.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, Chief, just a housekeeping question. Really
Yeah.
quick. Obviously, probably want to request some records, and I have your email, but should I send those to you? Should I send
Yeah,
them
that's
to
fine.
Okay.
We've pushed out 911 calls. I think some body cam is going to come out this afternoon.
Okay.
So there'll be a OneDrive link.
How are you doing, sir?
How quickly will that be shared?
Actually,
Adequately
sit tight.
caffeinated.
We'll grab Stephen Taylor, our communications supervisor. He's,
Energy drinks and coffee.
Yeah.
Just to